Hi, I'm Lisa Bradshaw. Welcome to the show today. On the show today, we have guests from the Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center. I think it's such an asset and beautiful contribution to our community. I wanted to have them in to tell us what's happening at the museum in the coming weeks. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I have Kristen Lodge here today. She's the Director of Development and Communications, and I'm just happy to have you. You haven't been on the show before.
Thank you. No, I'm glad to be here.
So let's just talk about your role and how long you've been at the museum. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I started at the museum about a year ago. I work in fundraising and marketing, and I'm just really passionate about the Wenatchee Valley community and community building, and it's a great place to be.
When you came to, did you live in Wenatchee before you came to the museum?
So I was born and raised here, yes.
So
and my husband and I lived in the Seattle area or the Pacific Northwest for about 15 years. So we're recently-ish back to the Valley and glad to be here.
I have hope for that because I hear about people like yourself who go and work in the city for a bit at any city and then come back and make this your home. So I'm hoping that my son will do the same thing at some point.
Too.
So welcome home.
Or my kid, having kids, we're a big influence in that. Having grandparents around and family, it takes a village.
Yes, well, welcome back.
Thank you.
So you started there at the museum, and what was your experience? So that's interesting because you grew up here. So did you have much experience with the museum as a child?
Absolutely, yeah. I went to the museum on field trips. I remember an ill-fated piano concert that I had there. All sorts of wonderful memories of exploring and learning, and it's fun to be back.
So it really is like coming home for you.
It is, yes.
So tell us about your role. What is the most exciting part about the job that made you want to work there and come back to it?
Yeah, I just love sharing the mission of the museum. We preserve and protect the history of the Wenatchee Valley, but we really strive to be a community asset, a place where people can come together and learn. People of all ages, young and old and in between, and families and seniors, we can all come and learn something new, maybe something about our history, or maybe something about science and ingenuity. There's a lot going on at the museum. It's just a really fun place to be, and my role is really special because I get to go out and talk to the community about what we're doing and help connect them.
One of the things, talk about community, that I love about the museum is you have most definitely some of the most exquisite exhibits that are traveling the country land at the exhibit for time for people to come visit. But you also have that community engagement, like you said. The Don't Wait Project is a nonprofit that I founded in 2011. And I don't know if you know this, Mariah may have shared with you, Mariah Thornock, she works at the museum as well, that we did a Don't Wait history project, my friend Melissa Knott and I, and we interviewed people throughout our community who are seniors and had remarkable stories. And some of them passed within just a few months or a year of putting the exhibit together. And one of the things that was so special for their families was to get to have these stories that they may not have otherwise known, or at least seen told on a foam board in a written form with pictures and things. So we definitely appreciated that support.
Oh, good. That's really special. We love doing that.
Yeah, it was the very first exhibit we did, and it ended up traveling to Pipus and things like that. So I appreciate that. So I do encourage people who are creatives here in our community, if they feel like they have something they could share with the museum, it's all up for consideration.
Right. People who have been to the museum are probably familiar with our permanent exhibits, which are just a wonderful part of our history. I think our school kids have it the best, where they get to come and learn about making rope and learn about the fur trade and actually jump in the Columbia River on a canoe and canoe up the river, learn about pioneer days and all sorts of different hands-on experiences. Those exhibits are wonderful. And we also have the opportunity to bring featured exhibits. So like you were talking about with your project, right now we have a My Sky exhibit, which is out of Boston Children's Museum. It's available until January 4th, and it's primarily aimed at children and their families. And the idea is to inspire curiosity about the world around us. It's called My Sky, and there's different ways to engage with the exhibit, lots of different kind of opportunities to get hands-on and climb and play, and the idea being just imagine and look up and ask questions and form hypotheses. And so it's been really well received in the community.
Well, that's something for families to consider because there's a lot of families gathering this the
Yes.
holidays, and if you're looking
Yep.
for something to do to get the kids out and having some fun
Right.
in these chilly months, it's definitely something. So through January 4th.
Through January 4th. Yes.
Okay, so tell us some of the other things that are happening at the exhibit right
Oh,
now,
yes.
or at the museum
At
right
the
now.
museum. So this time at the museum is a really exciting time. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to meet our new executive director.
I have not.
She came on about a year ago. Her name's Kenny Sturgeon, and she's last out of the Pacific Science Center. She is forming an action council to do strategic planning in this Q1 of 2020. So we've had some meetings with a contractor with our board, and the next step is to bring that out to the community. And what we're looking to ask and have answered is, how can the museum best serve the Wenatchee Valley community? So we want to learn about the needs of the community. We want to learn about what we've done that's working well. You know, you shared about that exhibit. That's the perfect opportunity for us to learn about those types of successes and then grow from there. So we're looking to set the strategic plan for the museum for the next 3 to 5 years.
And so how much when you say that you want to know from the community what's working, what isn't, how does the community go about sharing that information with you?
So we're going to have 4 listening sessions where we're going to open up the museum, and we're going to go, I believe, to North Wenatchee, South Wenatchee, and East Wenatchee to meet with different groups in the community, and they're open to the public. They will all be in the late part of January and available on our website for more information. We'll be sharing that as we nail down those details. But they're really going to be listening sessions that are guided by our strategic planner consultant, who will ask questions of the community, and we're there to learn.
So you've been there, Kristen. We're talking with Kristen Lodge. She is the Director of Development and Communications at the Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center. You've been there just over a year. What is something about the job that you've taken on that surprises you, that you didn't expect, or that's a delightful surprise?
Oh, that's a really great question.
Whenever anyone says that, I think, okay, that interview's done. I asked the good question.
You got
so
there.
Good.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, so what is your answer?
You
to
know,
that
I
question?
shouldn't be surprised at this point. I moved away from Wenatchee and have come back because of the community. But I think my answer is just how warmly the museum is regarded in the community, how supportive the community is. The exhibit that I mentioned was made possible only by community donations and funders and sponsors who helped partner with us to bring it to the Wenatchee Valley, and it wouldn't be here otherwise. So I feel like everywhere I turn, the opportunity to meet with you, the media and sponsors and other organizations, I feel like the museum is just met so warmly. This community is just so supportive. So I love that. I love being a part of it.
Well, let's take a break. When we come back, Ashley Center, she's going to join us. She's also with the museum. She's outreach and PR coordinator.
Yes.
And I want to talk a little bit more about fundraising, because when people think about what it takes to bring an exhibit to our community, I want them to understand not just the specific dollars, but just how it works. When you walk in the museum and you see this amazing exhibit that's traveling the country, how did it get here? So let's take a break and we'll come back in just a moment. Hi, we're back. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Lisa Bradshaw on the Life of Lisa Bradshaw show. We've been talking with Kristen Lodge from the Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center. We've talked about what brought her back to our community. She lived in the Pacific Northwest outside of Wenatchee for 15 years, you said, and now you're back home and you're working at the museum, and it's just a delight, right?
Yes.
So one of the things we were talking about is, for example, the exhibit Sky.
Yes.
My Sky?
My Sky.
My Sky, that is now there until January 4th. So any of you who have family and children who are in for the holidays, you could check it out.
Don't miss it.
So I want people to understand what it takes we'll just use that one exhibit as an example of what it takes to bring it here, and knowing that it's traveling throughout the country. So tell us a little bit about that. Do they reach out to you and say, we have this exhibit, or is there people on your staff that are always looking for things to bring?
So we have a full-time staff person. Casey Koski is our curator of exhibits, and she maintains our permanent exhibits and then is tasked with, we have 2 featured rotating exhibits. They rotate 3 to 4 times a year, and she's tasked with getting to dream up what those look like and what they might be. So she dreamed of the My Sky exhibit. She was searching for something that I think was hands-on, STEM and kids related. So she found that and made the recommendation to the museum executive director at that point, who confers with our board, and they decided they wanted to bring that to the museum. So right about the time that I came on board a year ago, we started fundraising for the exhibit. I went out and I met with different community members that I thought, and organizations that I thought might have an interest in bringing something STEM related to families and kids, inspiring that out of class, out of school learning environment, that hands-on, interactive, STEM related learning, and for families and for kids. And I just was met so warmly. We had 3 gold sponsors at the $5,000 level: Microsoft, Wells Fargo, and an anonymous donor. And then we had about $15,000 sponsors that came in and supported us, and about another 100 community members and museum members that stepped up and supported us at levels below that. So it literally took a village to
well,
bring
and that's
that here.
that's why I wanted to talk so specifically
Yes.
about it, because people
Yes.
may not realize what it takes to bring something of such measure to our community.
Right.
And I think Wenatchee is a community of that type of measure, of those types of people who really want to see things of quality in their
Yes.
museum, and that doesn't happen for free.
It doesn't.
So it is, just an education for our viewers to understand just exactly what it takes when you come there, when you bring your family over the holidays, hopefully through January
Yes.
4th, to see My Sky or any of the other exhibits at the museum, to get a sense of what it takes monetarily,
Yes.
but also all the behind the scenes to get it there.
Absolutely, yes. It took a lot of us. What's really special about My Sky and at this time is because we're entering into strategic planning, we're able to look at our attendance numbers and our visitation and our support and say, hey, the community really does have an appetite or an interest in these hands-on STEM children's exhibits. And maybe that's something that, as we're looking into strategic planning, that we can ask the community, is that something you'd like to see at your museum more permanently or more frequently, and explore that further.
So when people come to the website, they can find out information about what?
So they can find out information about our upcoming events, all of the different classes and programs and exhibits that we have at the museum. They can find out about our featured and rotating and our permanent exhibits. They can find out about membership. Our museum membership offers free access to our museum, and there's premium memberships that also allow reciprocal access to other museums and science centers worldwide. So my family and I travel a lot, and every time we go, we show our Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center card, and we're able to get in for free at Pacific Science Center, a Museum of Flight, and all sorts of other organizations. So learning more about our membership is great. People can also find out on our website about our annual appeal or about other opportunities to join the museum and support the museum financially or through a gift of their time as a volunteer.
So you also mentioned that you'll be having some meetings that are taking place in different areas of the community toward the end of January.
Yes.
And your website will have those details as well,
Yes.
where you'll be getting true feedback from the community about what they want at our museum.
We will.
So go to the website for that. There's all kinds of information you can get from the website. So we'll take a break now, and we really will now bring Ashley on. We just wanted to talk a little bit more about fundraising, just to give an idea of that donation process. And you certainly, if you visit the museum and you want more information about making those donations, it is tax deductible. And sometimes you get to allocate where the money goes, like specifically to this exhibit, but other times you can just trust they're putting it to good use.
And if I may,
Sure.
I want to take the opportunity really just to thank the Wenatchee Valley community. I have been so warmly met, and people have opened their doors and opened their wallets to the museum in support of bringing these types of exhibits and what we're able to offer in programs and events. So I want to thank the community.
Well, I love that you're a local and you're someone who loved the museum as a kid and get to come back and kind of create
Yes.
that space for your kids and all the
Yes.
kids in our community. So good for you, and welcome
you.
here. So we'll
Thank
be
you.
back in just a moment. We're going to talk with Ashley Sinner. She is also part of the museum, and she'll give us an idea of all of the things you can see and do coming up in the coming weeks.
Great.
We'll be back in just a moment. Hi, I'm Lisa Bradshaw. We're back. Thanks for joining the show. We've been talking all about the Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center. I talked with Kristen Lodge. She's still here on the show with us, but now joining us is Ashley Center.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So you are the outreach and PR coordinator at the museum, and you have been there how long?
Just over 2 years.
So all fresh people, some fresh
Yeah.
people, at least for the outreach and
Yeah.
the fundraising and things. So what brought you to the museum? And I was talking with Kristen a little bit about how she grew up going there and has returned to the area. What brought you to the museum?
I have lived here about 5.5 years now, and one of the first things that I participated in was the museum had a all call for regional artists to submit work for a show, and I had a painting that was accepted, and it was my first art show, and I just had a lot of fun at the museum and spending time there with my kids. And so when I had the opportunity to apply for a job there and was ready to go back to work, I did, and so I'm really happy. Yeah.
So what was that like to have your work shown in the exhibit and accepted?
It was fun. It was my first time showing any work or trying to. And
What type of painting do you do?
acrylic. And so I had a little flower field painting that was accepted, and it was on display, and I got to go to the artist receptions, and it was just a really good experience. And after that, I continued to do some art and was in the next show that they had. I've been over in Leavenworth at some shows, so it was really the start of me showing my work to the public, which is really fun.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
I know
you.
that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Anytime we can share our art or our work or
Yeah.
anything that we're passionate about with our community, that's a good place to be. It's a good gig to have. So let's talk about the specific things that are coming up. We talked a bit about just what it takes to bring these exhibits to the community, but let's talk about what people can expect from both of you. Let's share what's coming up and why they would want to come and what they could share with their families and friends.
We just have something happening all the time at the museum, and whatever your interests are, I'm sure we have a program or an exhibit that will suit you. So First Friday is the first thing coming up, January 3rd, and every first Friday of the month, we're open to the public for free from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's some light refreshments and things after 5, so kind of the first Friday circuit, you can stop by. Of course, this particular one coming up in January is the last one that will have My Sky there. So if you haven't seen it or you want to see it one more time before it's gone, come on January 3rd. The other exhibit we have is Beauty of Bronze, which is 5th graders in the Wenatchee School District do a project in the fall with Art on the Avenue, and they go and look at the sculptures downtown, learn about sculptures, and then they get to build their own. They get to come to the museum and create their own sculpture that is then cast in bronze and then shown at the museum. So it's their kind of reception for their artwork.
Oh, that's fun. It's good for kids to see that too, very early in age. So, Kristen, tell me about when you guys decide the balance of what's going to be shown at the museum and trying to, like you said, there's something for everyone. How do you go about making sure that happens?
Great question. Well, we look at our audiences, we look at our demographics in the community, and we really try to serve a wide range. So coming up in 2020 for featured exhibits, we have a high school art show for a 6-county district. All get to showcase their art, and then that goes on to Olympia. Then we have a tomfoolery vintage toy exhibit that features Wenatchee cycle and toy vintage toys, and our hope for that is that it's going to be a really hands-on, fun, family-friendly, young and old, all ages exhibit. And then starting in the fall, we'll have women's suffrage. It's celebrating the centennial, the 100-year of women's right to vote, in collaboration with Women Painters of Washington. So some light topics, some heavier topics, and hopefully meeting different audiences and demographics.
When you have an exhibit come in, so say someone's coming to visit My Sky or any of the other exhibits, how many people can you tell the difference between people who are coming in for the first time and well, obviously you get to know the regulars, but what is the response from people who had no idea what the museum has to offer?
I've always heard great things from the community and newcomers to the museum, because sometimes you don't know just looking at the building what all is inside of it. So usually that's the biggest surprise is, oh my gosh, I didn't know all of this was here. And there is, because we cover 2 buildings. You can tell the first time comers, because there's so many doors between our 2 buildings, that they were not sure which one to go in. So we usually spot them right away.
And what have you found in terms of you coming to the museum and working there? What I asked Kristen this as well. What's been the biggest surprise? What's the most delightful part of your job?
I am outreach, and I get to collaborate with so many people, especially for our cultural events with Day of the Dead that we had in November, and coming up in January 18th is our Multicultural Fest over Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. It's Saturday the 18th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and we just bring in actually anyone in the community, whether you're a group or an organization or an individual who wants to share your heritage and culture. We ask you to come and set up a booth, and then I get to meet everyone and help them put their displays out, and then tell everyone in the community about these really exciting things that we do every day at the museum.
What is if someone wanted to contribute and have something up? I think some people would think it's a little overwhelming and not sure what that would look like. So what's an example of how that would look?
Yeah, you can bring displays of pictures or clothing items. Some people bring in some bread or some food samples that they can share of their food. Sometimes it's like art or pottery, music. We have entertainment all day, plus the booths that you can go around and learn about all the different cultures here just locally.
So the only other question I would have regarding both of your positions there, I wanted to know what's the most rewarding part of your job? What's the most challenging part? Is it fundraising? Is it getting the word out? Is it making sure people know what is offered?
For me, I think it's just that we offer so much to so many different demographics, and it's just like keeping up and getting the word out on everything, and just, making sure that there's balance for each one. How
about you?
I think funding is always a challenge, but I think that our community is so generous in so many ways. So I agree. In some ways, we have so many different ways that we serve the community and audiences and programs and exhibits. There's just really a lot to share. One of the other projects I'm working on is we're ramping up toward our annual fundraiser, Night at the Museum, which is a gala-like event, kind of a red carpet exclusive event where we have food and drink throughout the museum with different live bands and kind of different feel in each space. And so we're starting to ramp up toward that. That's on March 21st. So people can mark their calendars and join us then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I really want to, I keep going back to this. We're about to wrap up. We just have a minute left. So I just want to make sure that people take a look at the website, because you will have information about the meetings that you're holding at the end of January. I think the input from our community and what they want to see at the museum and what they're happy about, what they've seen so far, is important. You have a voice, so I encourage you to use it at these meetings. And then also just to get any other information, times, membership, all of the things that we talked about earlier in the show. So I appreciate you both being here. I'm so happy to have met both of you, and I'm glad you're getting to do things that you're passionate about. Isn't it great when you have a job that doesn't feel like work?
That's right.
You get to go and enjoy yourself. So thanks so much. So we're Kristen Lodge and Ashley Center. Visit Wenatchee Valley Museum. Tell us the website.
WenatcheeValleyMuseum.org.
So take a look at that and make some plans to see My Sky by January 4th with your family who's in town. See that exhibit and take the kids. Thanks for being here.
You know, what I like to tell people about Chief Fitness is you'll never get bored here and you'll never be judged. My top priority is making sure people feel welcome here, no matter your age, experience, or ability. The majority of new people that come through our door, they've never even put on a boxing glove. That's why our staff is here to help you and show you through the ropes.
It's hugely empowering. I mean, you walk out and you feel like you've accomplished something.